Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Dave Tree.
That's not true. That's impossible.
Star Wars Zone, London Film and Comic-Con. We have some guests here to talk about Star Wars. We have Rusty Goffe, we have Ron Hone, we have Pam Rose. So we thought Star Wars might be a decent topic to kick off with. But I've just been told by you that you didn't even know you were doing this panel till about a minute ago.
No, I didn't.
So you've not got a speech prepared or anything?
I'm just speechless.
No, I know that. That's why we invited you. So we've got half an hour to talk nonsense about Star Wars. I'll start at the end.
How long?
30 minutes. Oh, don't worry. Well, 25. All right then.
Yeah, I've got a bus to catch.
A bus.
A question each. Where we are gone in 10 minutes. Right.
Crazy question. When did your Star Wars journey begin? When did you first get involved? First heard about it? How did it come across your path?
How Star Wars? Sorry, I'm in the wrong area.
How did Star Wars first come across your path? How did you first hear about it?
It was an agency I had worked for me. They said, you want to go to Elstree Studios to do a film called Star Wars? I said, oh, well, that'd be good. So I went there to Star Wars, and then they said, oh, by the way, you're going to Tunisia as well. Oh, that's nice. But you might have to take a bit of camera stuff with you. Why? Because you're going to go on a charter flight. Because they don't really like you filming in Tunisia, so you have to take bits of the film stuff with you. It's a clapperboard thing. So I went to Tunisia, only for a week. I came back. It was too hot for me. But anyway, they'd done what I wanted, what they wanted me to do, so I came back. But then the rest of it was in Elstree. And I started off with playing a character called a Jawa, which people say to now, oh, I bet that was fun. I bet you had a fantastic costume. Well, this is how the costume was. They sat me down and they put two flashlight batteries, stuck there, bulbs there, a wire over my head to a battery pack at the back. And they painted them orange. Then they put a bit of black cloth on it, cut slits on it, pushed them through, and taped the whole cloth around my head with electrical tape, black tape, and then they put this sack on me, which a potato sack, which had still got the potatoes in, and they said, there you are, that's your costume. Wow. But it was new. No one knew how big it was going to be. Everybody would say, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we doing it? Only two people knew, George Lucas and Gary Kurtz. They knew. George knew especially. It's going to be good. But we had fun doing the canteen a bit. It was good. I nearly killed Sir Alec Guinness in the first shot. Good. George told me, when Sir Alex comes in the steps in the canteen, I want you to run up to his right-hand side and run out. I said, OK, George, fine. Then the first assistant director, Mr. Way, said to me, Rusty, oh, by the way, when Sir Alex comes in, you walk around Sir Alex's left-hand side and rush out. OK. So, as we know, we take the last direction. And told Sir Alex. I went up, he came in. Bloody fool. But he apologised afterwards. Young man, I'm so sorry for my language, but it wasn't your fault. It's those stupid bloody directors. And that was it. So, but anyway, I nearly killed him. He fell downstairs. But it was unbelievable. In Star Wars, I played 3 characters. The Jawa, a gonk droid. Now, that was fun, which they invented on the week we were going to do it. I walked around the set studio one day, they said, bend over. So I said, like this. And they put this polystyrene water cistern over me. Just like that. And they called Giorgio in Lucas and said, look at that. He said, hey, I like that. So it wasn't given a name then. Because his children, his daughters and son, they named the droids. They named them. So it wasn't given a name. So what they did there, they put corrugated from piping from air conditioning around my legs, cardboard tubes, sprayed. It's like Blue Peter. They're walking around the car park, picking up bits of plastic, sticking it on, spraying it. And that was the Gong droid. And then the last character was in the cantina, Cabby. This character was played originally by an 84-year-old lady called Gilda Cohen. Now, in the cantina, see the top of this? That's about what the roof was like. It was about as big, not too big. And we were no video, we're using the real film. So you have to have a lot of light. So, 16,000 kilowatt of light on you. Heat, hot, smoke. Health and safety, we'll have a field day. It was unbelievable. And the mask, what Gilda was wearing, which I wore eventually, no, you couldn't breathe. So what happened to an 85-year-old lady? Collapsed. Now, they'd already done the master shot, the big, long shot. So they had to take her out, a big hole left in there. And you didn't have computers, CGI then. You had to fill that hole. So the lovely words of George Lucas, Rusty, get in the dress. So I ended up playing Cabby. And this horrible, I was about the same size as Gilda. I was young then. And this horrible mask. So I realised, and I was getting a bit iffy with it. But it was done on the cheap. $48 billion later. But what a success it was. And I'm proud to be a part of it. And there was only going to be one movie called Star Wars. So they made enough money. Oh, well, we'll do a series then. Don't let George say I wrote the whole saga. Thank you.
Quick question, you say you played 3 characters. It sounds like you didn't hit the jackpot for comfortable costumes. So which was the least uncomfortable of the 3?
The least uncomfortable was, I suppose, the Gong Joy was... But I couldn't see where I was going. You know, George used to direct me. I was bent over. Right, Rusty, 3 steps forward. 1 step back. 2 steps right. That's left. Sorry, George. And that was it. But a funny bit afterwards. Someone said to me in a panel, can you say the words you said running around the desert? I said, pardon? Can you say what you said when you're running around the desert? I went, oh, really? I said, yeah. I went, okay. Ow, shit, damn. And they said, no, you're teeny. I said, what the hell's that? Because I hadn't seen the remastered DVD or VHS where they put all these bits in, where the Jabba the Hutt was taken out from a man to be put into a slug, and also the Jabba's grown. I didn't know that. I just said, well, so I was honest. And that's what happened. There you go.
Brilliant.
Hello, I'm Warwick Davis, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Ron, yourself, how did you first get involved in Star Wars?
How did I get involved with
First get involved, yeah.
I was working on Alien, we was working on the models of Alien, and all of a sudden we were told it was going to be a load of rubbish, and most of it was going to be moved on to Star Wars. I never heard of it. Anyway, I get there, and eventually we see the stuff that was made on the original one, And my first job was to get rid of Kenny Baker. I was told that he thinks he's the main star, and he's not, but he's on a big lot of money. We want now automatic robots, R2-D2.
Yeah.
So we set about making them. But Kenny was still used, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was their main thing, you know. And the other robots and bits and pieces came along afterwards. A very interesting film because it was a lot of mechanics, and I brought a lot of people into the industry who I knew as engineers and whatever. And we had electrics to do. And then eventually we went on to do Yoda. And that was made very, very similar to what E.T. was. So it was the first time they used miniature electronics, which came out of, originally were made for model aircraft. And we used them inside to make the eyes move and the ears move and all that. Because Yoda was going to be puppeteered, but there was lots of sets where they couldn't puppeteer it. He was sitting on branches or he was inside the spaceship or whatever. So there had to be a mechanical one made. So all these were very intricate things, and it was good. It was good fun. They were good fun, you know. Lucas always used to tell us we're wasting his money. He was a pain in the arse, I've got to say. I hope this gets back to him. But other than that, it was all good fun. Not much more to say, really. And then we went. That was on Empire Strikes Back. Then we went on to the Revenge of the Jedi, you know. So it's the same. I took the same crew along who worked on the robots and took them along to the next film. Yeah. I did when I was on the first one. No, the second one. I was in California, and we went all over America with them. And it wasn't called Star Wars. He was trying to hide it. It was called the Blue Harvest. And we went all over America as a disguised unit, really. And, George was very funny to work for. He used to watch us doing things and come up and say, "What are you doing there? That's a load of rubbish," you know. And one day he altered something I was doing. And I said, "Don't do that, George. We've already tried that." And he was trying to pull the thong out of the backpack of the bounty hunter. Because in real life, you could never pull that great long thong out. So what it was on a monofilament, and the monofilament was going to be pulled out with a rocket. And the rocket fired into the air, then pulled the monofilament out and whatever. And George said, "I don't want all that. I only want a small length of it." I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" He wrapped it round the cord round his fingers, the monofilament, and pulled it like hell. It cut into his fingers, and off he went to see the nurse. So he knotted it back together again and did it. And then next day, it was very good working on Star Wars films because they did very good storyboards.
Yeah.
And next day you got that, and they ticked it off or put a comment whether it was good or redo it and whatever. And it said excellent.
That's the result you want, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you find it interesting in the sense that he would give you, or the production or the job would give you technical problems to solve that you might not know the answer, but you and your lads have got to work it out?
George was Lucas. He really wasn't interested in the special effects. To him, it was something that had to be done, but he was really not interested in how the things were made. That wasn't his. He was a writer.
He just wanted the end result.
Yeah, he wasn't, like we were, motorbike mechanics or pilots or something like that. He was never interested in that.
So where did you learn your skills? Where did your technical knowledge come from?
I originally was an engineer and pattern maker. I don't know if you know anything about that. Yeah. That's all died now.
Yeah.
Then I worked for Jerry Anderson.
Right.
And it sort of came from there, you know.
Because the British film industry back then, there was a lot of word of mouth. He had a team of guys that...
Speak up.
Sorry, there was a big team of guys that worked in models at that time. They all knew each other.
Yeah,
and moving on to the Star Wars production kind of elevated everybody, didn't it?
Yeah, in them days it was more of a hands-on. I mean, the last film I got involved with was Moon. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it.
Yeah.
And David Bowie's boy had got this script, and he was trying to get some money out of his father. And his father said, "Oh, you can have $3 million." And he knew he'd have to have an event on the moon, which was these buggies going across all the moon. and he was going to get that CGI'd, and they said, oh yes, and that was going to be the end of his budget. So he then, long story short, he went and approached people who used to do it the old-fashioned way, like Jerry Anderson did, models, pull them across with monofilaments and things like that, and it was all done like that, and it looked good. And the CGI people thought the job had been stolen off of them, because they were going to do something for the film, and they thought, who's nicked all our work? And they couldn't believe it. They still don't believe it. They think it was CGI. It was done the old-fashioned way.
That's a brilliant tip of the hat to your work, though, isn't it?
I still work occasionally now, and I still do small things. Like we've been doing, we've been doing a lot of. It seems to be in a lot of things now on television and film. Knives. It seems to be the culture now. Knives. The amount of blood knives I've made in the last couple of years is unbelievable, you know. I think the last one I did with this princess, she grabs a knife and pulls it like that. Of course, it's not her blood, we see, it's the blood from the knife and all this sort of thing. So this sort of thing is still about, because it's much easier to do it mechanically than it is CGI. And you've got it, and you think, well, that's all. There was another one a little while ago where a girl has an hour, you know. If she falls into the water, and they wanted the water to go red, you know, from the blood coming out. Well, they can CGI that, but it's quite difficult in water, you know. So there's still room for normal effects. Yeah. Well, she just reminded me something about another thing that George did. We had an R2-D2, and a friend of mine he's now. Well, he's in a home now. He's gone dually. I think George must have sent him that way. In the Star Wars, when we got the storyboards, it showed you in the desert. All you saw was a desert, and then you saw the tumbleweed just rolling across the desert. And then, on the next storyboard page you saw a little bit of blue, like your blue watch there, that grey blue on top of the R2-D2s, and then a little hatch opens and a periscope comes up, looks around, comes down, then R2-D2 throws himself further in the sand. That was on the storyboards. Okay, it does work, yeah. And this was all set up in the desert, and this got it all there. It's all radio controlled, and we had a big platform built like this, and the R2-D2 had a hole cut out just for his head, and it was all covered with sand, and they're all set up, and we've got all the cameras there and everything. Got the periscope coming up, all working perfectly. A wind machine to blow the sand off, so we just revealed the top. George come along and said, I don't need any of that, I don't know what that's for. Get me a hacksaw. Bring that thing up. He then cut it off with a hacksaw, taped it to a piece of stick, like a broom handle, and tried to push it through the sand. I understand what he was trying to get at, because he didn't want anyone to realise that periscope was actually on an R2-D2. But in the end, he just scrubbed it, and it was done CGI'd, you know. But he was like that. He wouldn't explain to you what he really wanted, but he lost his temper. Yeah.
I'm going to go and get the tray.
No problem. Can we just give a big hand for Rusty? That's fine. There you go. You have that one.
Safe journey.
Bye-bye.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and you are listening to Fantha Tracks. Well done.
What?
There you
You're
go.
probably going to sue me for this.
Which one am I playing with?
Go on, you hand that one back. There you go. So, Pam, you've done well here. We've got 7 minutes. You can tell us your Star Wars story in 7 minutes.
Thank you for coming.
There you go. So how did you first get involved? I mean, your character was visually very memorable and unusual, yeah. So how did that all come about? Because that must be quite a challenge.
Well, I'd been in the film business for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So our agent sent us down why they picked me, whether they liked my legs or my face, because most of the people had masks and heads and things like that. So at least it was my face. And the makeup was 3 hours a day. But having the original head cast was like being buried alive.
Yeah.
Because all you have is 2 little rubber blowholes to breathe through.
Yeah.
And we're all lazy and breathe through our mouth anyway. And the girl who was, the freeborn family, Kay, I had hold of her hand and I think I nearly broke it. But they were beautiful people and 2 hours in the morning, 1 hour at night. When I got on set, all the characters were dressed or whatever, so half of them I never knew who it was. Doing the conventions,
that's how you've learned.
Who was who now. And, this has been a bonus for me since 2006, doing the shows.
Yeah.
Because the last job I did full-time was a casino.
Yeah.
Shift work, basically never saw films and things.
Yeah.
And retired, joined the agency, and she phoned me up and she said, I've got fan mail for you. I won't say what I said, but I said, oh, have you? And she said, there's all these geeks looking for you.
Nice.
And then the first show I did was the Showmasters in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
And it's sort of rollerballed since then. And I'm 72 next month, and what a great thing it's been for most of us to travel around, and I'm going to Nashville in September.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
For what was just a few days' work then, obviously you couldn't... Well, who would? Nobody would imagine you'd still be even talking about it 40 years later.
Well, it was only 5 days. But the thing is, like with people seeing the film, you had Tunisia outside.
Yeah.
You had inside in Elstree. The band was put on in America. So you didn't really have much concept of what you were working on. Most of us were just glad to have a day's work and go on to the next thing.
That's a really good point. Like Rusty said, the only people that really got it was Gary Kurtz and George Lucas. So.
Well, they're the only ones that knew the story.
Yeah.
Or the storyboard or the script or... if you were an extra, you never saw the scripts anyway.
No.
You just got a call sheet every night, ready for the next day, what time you were called, what time makeup, and etc.
Yeah.
So, it was... Well, it's been wonderful now, but I can't say I've seen many films.
That's okay, we'll let you off. So what did you think when you saw yourself in the makeup then, when you first saw that amazing head?
Money. I did 5 days filming, and I got 2 days overtime just for makeup. So in those days, I didn't want to be an actress or anything. I just wanted to do anything. I did standing in, I did doubling, I did a few little stunt bits.
Yep.
Didn't we? And I've known him since 1968.
Wow.
And, of course, I did Space 1999.
Of course, yeah.
I did Star Maidens. So I was quite used to being out of this world type thing.
Yeah.
And that was before Star Wars anyway. So it's been great.
It's been good.
Yes.
You were going to say something, Ron?
I was just going to say something. I've got to say that the Star Wars films are some of the best run films I ever worked on. The way they did their storyboards and things was really good.
Professional.
Very professional. I've not seen that since then. Nowadays they hardly ever do anything. They tell you nothing, basically. But I did when they started to do the latest Star Wars films. I think it was Pamela told me about there was a club that made the R2D2s, and they've been approached to put their R2D2s on the set. Well, I went to see them. Well, I'd already seen these R2D2s before, and some were beautiful, some were mediocre, and what can you say? They're all made. But there wasn't one that was identical to another one. And I thought to them, I can't see how you can use them. Because when we were filming, we had a very first man who was the first assistant, David Tomlin, and he wouldn't stand any nonsense. If you held him up for 2 minutes, you was on the call sheet next day, and that was it. That was a bollocking. And we always had 3 of them, 2 which were there ready to go, and if one ran out of power or had an accident, another one would take over, and they were identical. And very often there was 3, because sometimes you couldn't get the shot all in one go, or one operator. So sometimes there's always two cameras or whatever. So one would go out of shot, and another one would sneak in from behind a pillar or somewhere and take over. So it was very complex, and I can't see how they did that. Latest bunch of films with a bunch of R2-D2s that were beautifully made but didn't match. And I think when you see that original one, like the first one of this bunch, whatever it's called now, you'll very rarely see that R2-D2. And I think that's possibly the reason. When we were doing these robots, each time they went on the set, they were given a number. They had to do different jobs. And you could never get one R2-D2 to do all these jobs. So when it come from the set, the engineers then changed it, and it was given another number to whatever the storyboard was. And it went out and did the job and then come back again. I left 10 of them in California when we finished the film. About a month later, George found some paperwork and realised the last one was number 43. He wanted to know where the other 30 were. He still thinks I've got them somewhere. I wish I had.
Fantatrax.
So we're near the end of our panel. If you had to think of one amazing moment, either from the making of the film or from the time you've been doing conventions, what one moment would you say, that made everything just perfectly worthwhile?
That's a hard one, isn't it?
It is.
I suppose meeting the people.
Yeah.
And especially disabled people and kids.
Yep.
Just to make their experience coming to meet us.
Yeah.
And actually spend a little time, because a lot of the big stars are not,
Yeah. Yeah.
I spoke to somebody upstairs. They queued, paid a lot of money, and she went and stood next to the actor. It was, go, next. And they've come from abroad.
Yeah.
I met them in Austria.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing when you pay a lot of money and you travel and people can't be bothered to spend 10 seconds with you.
So you like the chance to talk to folks?
Yes.
And
Good at that, aren't I?
And Ron, what one moment would you say stands out most for you in your Star Wars experience? From either working on the films or anything else?
I don't know really. I'm trying to think. There was always moments and everything, I don't know.
Did you have a good crack with the other lads, the guys that you were working with? You had good fun?
Well, most of them gone now. I mean, I've got to be honest, most of them have disappeared, Yeah. I mean, we did have cracks on there, I think film industry was more friendly to everyone. You could go and have a drink with the main artist. Very often Mark Hamill used to come with us, and Kenny used to come gliding with me. We used to sit him in a glider and take him flying, all these things. It was much more of a social thing.
Yeah.
Although you did work hard, and as I say, someone like David Tomlinson, he would not take any nonsense whatsoever.
Absolutely. I hear from the agent that some people don't even bother to turn up for work now, but it annoys me because there's people sitting at home would love a day's work.
Yeah.
And they just can't be bothered. And it really annoys me. Plus, we used to get paid on the day.
Yes.
Now you have to wait months for the money, and you've got to pay commission and other... We didn't have to pay commission or anything in those days.
Well, we're glad you guys turned up, and we're glad you turned up today. So, Pam, Ron, everybody, round of applause, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all for this special episode of Making Tracks. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Android, Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn, iHeartRadio and Spreaker. If you want to find Fantatrax out there in the wild, you can find us on smart speakers such as Amazon, Alexa, Apple HomePod, Google Home and Sonos. We're also available in your car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, on gaming consoles and television. You can find us on Fantatrax TV, on YouTube or the Fantatrax app. And of course, you can drop onto the dedicated landing page for Fantatrax Radio on fantatrax.com. We'll be back very soon, but for now, clear skies.